Welcome to the Brain People Podcast, a show where four mental health experts team up to bring you practical tools for overcoming mental health challenges. The Brain People don't replace your doctor or therapist, but we will give you some extra tools to help you on your journey. So join us as we fight mental illness, one episode at a time. Welcome to the Brain People Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Binus, and I'm a holistic psychiatrist, and I'm joined today by a very prestigious, wonderful guest, Dr. John Scharffenberg. Now, Dr. John Scharffenberg is a very interesting man. He was actually born way before any of us, and that was back in 1923. So he was born in Shanghai, China back in 1923, and he has had so much life experience, not only as a person, but also as a physician, and not just a physician, but a holistic physician. He graduated from Loma Linda University School of Medicine in 1948 and from Harvard's School of Public Health in 1956. He has served as the nutritionist on the Secretariat of the Interdepartmental Committee of Nutrition for National Defense at the National Institutes of Health. Now that's a mouthful, isn't it? And has been a professor of nutrition at Loma Linda University for over 63 years. He has also been a consultant for the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia on infectious diseases. He has been director of the San Bernardino, California Health Department and the director of the International Nutrition Research Foundation in Riverside, California. Despite him being quote unquote retired, he continues to share passionately about nutrition and how we can optimize our mental and physical health. And his online interviews have reached millions of viewers. So Dr. John Scharffenberg, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I'd like to start by asking you, what inspired you to become a physician in the first place? And what was the medical world like when you first started practicing?
Well, is a very interesting question, because that's really set my whole life program. I was over in China, missionary kid, and I saw Dr. Harry Miller working. Harry Miller was a well-known physician. He built 15 hospitals in China. And a lady across the street, Mrs. Oss, helped to raise the money for all those buildings, those hospitals. And he did such a good job of it. Everybody in China knew who he was. And I watched him. He had a special training from Johns Hopkins on goiter operations, thyroid. And he was known for removing goiters. We had a lot of them in China. And I thought to myself, well, how silly. Why doesn't he give the people iodine so they don't get the goiters in the first place? And so I was pushed towards the preventive side. Even though he was well known, made a lot of money in his procedure, I was pushed the other direction towards prevention.
And so it sounds like very early on you
really when I got through medical
understood that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
That's right. I was about 12 years old age. I finished my dad's first year of Chinese language. That's 1,000 characters, how to read it and write it and speak it. And anyway, my dad knew I knew where all his exams were, so he had to give me a different one. And he sat me across the table from himself and had me read the first 10 chapters of the Gospel of John. Tai Tzu Yu Dao Dao Yu Shan Di Tong Zai Dao Zhu Shan Di. That's John 1:1. Anyway, but it was at that age when I also learned that prevention was so important. And I couldn't see why Dr. Miller was doing all this surgery when the people should have been getting the treatment to prevent the disease to start with. So that set my whole life plan. I was wondering whether I should be a minister or a doctor. I
So
was very
what made you actually choose to go into the doctoring world rather than the ministry?
yeah, well, that's quite interesting. I saw the doctors had more influence with the people than the ministers did. And that's what made me go into the missionary work aspect of being a doctor.
So it sounds like, in a way, you've actually combined the spiritual with the medical work. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how that's actually played out in your career?
Well, I was a reader of the Spirit of Prophecy early in life, more than my two brothers.
And when you say spirit of prophecy, some of our listeners might not know what that means. What does that
Yes,
mean?
that means those books written by Ellen White. Ellen
Okay.
White was a noted writer of a lot of subjects, but a lot on health too. And her home is a national uh, thing right now in the United States. It's a national center there in California. Everybody knows about Ellen White. And so we look at her as a prophet. And she has led this church from the beginning clear through and going to lead us clear through to the end. So we listen to her as somebody with authority. And so I was reading her books a long time before my brothers even got started on it. And I saw what she had to say about prevention, diet, and all these things. And I tried to follow it.
So then you started integrating that early on and these spiritual principles into the medical practice. Did you see a benefit for the patients and the people that you're working with, integrating those two worlds?
Oh, yes. Right now, we've had scientific information that's so exciting. If we avoid 7 risk factors, lifestyle risk factors, we can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and strokes 80%, and
Wow.
diabetes 88%. Now, that's something. There's no other medical procedure that does that well.
Well, I think our listeners
So,
might want to know what are those 7 principles. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
yes, sure can. There, alcohol, drinking of alcohol, smoking tobacco, inactivity, lack of exercise. Then also it's a matter of uh, keeping your weight down, not overeating. And then they put one in there that we need to eat more fruits and vegetables and less meat and less sugar. Now, that one was kind of interesting because the Americans rebelled against this less meat idea. So they changed it and just said, eat more fruits and vegetables. But they were still worried about the cholesterol problem. So they added another recommendation, which was don't get more than 5 to 6% of your calories from saturated fat. And
Okay.
if you give that to a dietitian, that means a vegetarian diet. And a lot of people don't know that. But that's what they did to try to handle the cholesterol problem. So the high blood pressure, high cholesterol were 2 other risk factors that they had listed. So those are the interesting factors that reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease 80%. Now,
Wow.
that's so exciting because that's the major cause of death. Cardiovascular disease is killing more people than the next 5 leading causes of death combined. So that is really exciting. Uh,
Yes, it is. Now,
it,
let me ask you, Dr. Scharffenberg, because it sounds like you saw such a benefit for people. How, but then I look at your life and I'm like, well, obviously this guy has some secrets that have helped him personally because he's over 101 years old and he is still sharing these principles. And uh, how have these principles impacted you personally and given you such a long life and such a keen mind, even at 101 years old?
Well, I've done some other things too. Ellen White wrote in her books that eating 2 meals a day was a good idea, skipping supper.
Ah,
And we got married, my wife and I decided to go on that program. And we got our kids on that program.
so
So
let me ask this: who was more excited about going to 2 meals a day? Was that you or your wife?
actually it was both of us.
Oh, all right. You're equally yoked.
See, when we got married, we agreed on two things. One, we would have morning and evening worship every day. That was standard policy in our home. Two, we should do everything we know that the Spirit of Prophecy says we should do. And we should start reading it to know what she said. So we read all her books and we learned exactly what she was saying. For example, exercise. She wasn't much for the usual sports. And so I stopped the sports. And my mother said, John, you haven't read enough. You don't have the balance. So I listened to what she said, and I went back to playing tennis, nothing else but tennis, just to get some exercise. And then I kept reading, and I found out I was right. Sister White was opposed to the usual recreation of the people of the world, including the games.
Hmm.
And then you remember in Australia, at our first college there, at the first year of their anniversary, they had a celebration with games. And Sister White was over there at the time. She had a vision of what happened. And then
Oh.
the next day, she had to speak to the faculty and then later on to the students.
And what
The
did she say
students
during that?
accepted what she had to say. Well, she said, this is no way to teach ministers. It was academy age group and preparing for the ministry.
Hmm.
And she hit it pretty hard. Well, the leader's wife moved to across the street from us and on Flower Avenue there in Tacoma Park. And my wife and I went over to visit her one time. And we found out that the daughter was a not very good student. And so the mother was worried. Anyway, I was excited about her plans of 2 meals a day, of how we should live, get exercise, and all that sort of thing. But it wasn't supposed to be through games and sports. So I finally played tennis till I was in medical school, number 3 on the totem pole, and then I gave it up. Never did play any more tennis. So it was a matter of teaching people gardening, useful exercise. So when I talk about exercise, I mean useful.
That's wonderful.
Now, the thing that really got me excited, particularly at this age, 101 now, be 102 in December. Uh, I have outlived my father 25 years already.
Wow.
I've outlived my two older brothers, oldest one 16 years, the second one 19 years. Why did I live longer?
Yes, that's what I want to know. Tell me.
Now, we were all vegetarian. We were all boys, same gender. We didn't have ACEs, adverse children's experiences, to cause any problem. Uh, so what did we do? We didn't smoke. We didn't drink. We had some exercise. We weren't overweight. We were vegetarians. We didn't have meat on the table. We didn't eat a lot of sugar. Our blood pressure was not up high. Our serum cholesterol wasn't high. So we had the lifestyle factors, but still I've outlived my two brothers. Why?
Why? Tell me. You got me on the edge of my seat.
Now, I think the main reason is exercise.
Ah, okay.
No, and we should say exercise in midlife is the important time. What's midlife? Between 40 and 70. That's midlife. Okay. That's when people relax, eat more, and get fat.
Uh-huh.
They have more money to spend on the food. And that's the wrong time. So we need to, at midlife, get on an exercise program. So
So
when I was
what what
51,
what kind of exercise program have you been on in your life?
well, since when I was 51, we moved out of smoggy Loma Linda and I found the best place in the world to live, North Fork, California. That was in the mountains, just above the snow line. We got the snow line. We got snow where we were. 10 minutes lower, there was no snow. We bought 26 acres, all wooded, and I went to work leveling land and cleaning up land, and we put 2 acres into cultivation. And we had a road about a tenth of a mile long running down to civilization. Uh, so I got a lot of exercise.
So it sounds like it was not just going on it wasn't going on a jog or something like that. It was actually physical labor where you had both cardiovascular and the muscle labor as well. Is that right?
We planted 80 fruit trees. I did it, not
Wow.
my wife. I did it.
That's
And
amazing.
one year we planted 3,000 strawberry plants. People
Wow.
said, people said, what do you do with all those strawberries? They don't understand, but everybody likes strawberries. It's the best way to make friends there is give them some of your strawberries.
That's great.
And so we had a wonderful garden, all kinds of things. And my grapes were the best thing. I had good grape juice, one row of grapes, 60, 160, 120 quarts a year of grape juice, better than you could find in the store. So I got a lot of exercise. Now, my two brothers, they had a gym card. They all had a gym card, and they went to the gym, uh, but they didn't get the exercise I did. That could have made a difference. But I
That's
think the
interesting.
main difference was I did get exercise and they didn't.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and I'm also thinking that the strawberries must have had something to do with it too, because
yes, I
because
think that that was good.
The,
Yes,
not, but also what you said about the strawberries, meaning, it helped you to connect with people and you were making friends and you were serving others and you were giving to others too. And that I've seen that makes a beautiful difference for a lot of people. In fact, when I think about, the latest data, there was actually just a New York Times article that came out that talked about the greatest secret to happiness, and they talked about ultimately, it has to do with the connection. And so, you know and it obviously it affects us both physically and emotionally when we have that sense of connectedness.
yes, yes. Anyway, I was at Loma Linda for a number of years teaching, but smog was bad. And I was rushed around because the teachers there got credit, only a quarter unit credit for every hour they spent in field work with the students.
Oh,
And my work was field work, taking the kids out to Pomona, having them go to the church there and do a weight control program.
that's
I
great.
drove them there and drove them back. And we talked about the situation on the way. That was worthwhile. But one unit of credit, you got full credit for one unit for just 1 hour lecture. And here I was doing mostly field training. I was the first one to take students overseas. I took them to the Philippines. And, as a result of Philippines work, about 60% of Filipinos in that island where we were are now Seventh-day Adventists.
Wow, that is amazing.
So that was a very rewarding experience. We built our own home, built a home for the church there. I came back and Dr. Dyson, the associate dean, said, "You can't do that without our position to say we're going to do it." I said, "We already did it. It's done. We got a field station there."
Wow. So
So
you've
that
always
was,
been a go-getter, and I think God has blessed your work as you've stepped out in faith. One
yeah.
question I have, Dr. Scharffenberg, is, as you look back over the many years that you've spent in the medical field, what changes and shifts in medicine have you witnessed? And what sorts of things do you think have had a positive impact or even a negative impact over all the years of medicine that you've been in?
Well, I would say one of the biggest things that happened in the United States was we cleaned up our water better than any other country. So that was good. Uh, Second thing is we all got immunized like we should. That was no problem. Uh, but I think exercise is a big thing. Now, I'm a nutritionist, but I have to say exercise I think is more important than even eating.
Now you kind of witnessed, over the years, going from very few pharmaceutical drugs to having many drugs over the last few years. And any thoughts on holistic treatment versus drug treatment? Have there been are the potential pros and cons that we from the pharmaceutical industry? Any thoughts on that?
I think one of the major things was she was opposed to the use of drugs. When she had her teeth pulled out, she never used any medication.
You're talking about who
Sister
you're.
White,
Oh,
Ellen White,
okay, Ellen White.
she
Okay, uh-huh.
didn't do that. And uh, so I think we have been very successful in pain control compared to what we used to. We used to not go to a dentist because of pain. Now you can go and get dental work done, no pain. It's very good what they do. Uh, so there's been an advantage in that. Uh, but she did tell us we've got to get used to teaching people how to live so they don't need the medicine. Teach them how to live so they don't get sick in the first place.
Yes. Do you think there's a place for medicine?
Uh, I think there may be, but she says as we study physiology more and more, our drug bill will get less and less until
I
it ceases entirely.
I love that. And I
See,
think that's a very balanced perspective, what you're sharing there, Dr. Scharfenberg. Thank you.
so there's a lot of people who say, "Hey, we still need these medicines." Well, we do until we study physiology more and more.
So, looking back over the last, century plus of your life, what are some of the most pivotal things that you would say you've learned or experienced over those years?
Well, I think the most important thing was the combining of the spiritual with the medical. I think that was very important. I think the seminary and the medical school, I think, were supposed to be on the same campus.
That's a really interesting idea. Yeah, it's been separated though, right?
It's been separated. And some of our early ministers, they went to the medical school the first year or two. They were supposed to be trained to, sew up wounds and things like this in the mission field. So right now it is kind of totally separated. And people to get advanced in the Adventist church work have to get PhDs.
Mm.
More PhD, less people are brought into the church. We're missing the soul winning aspect with all this PhD business.
So,
And
and how can we start? Any thoughts about how we can reconnect those two worlds? Because it seems like there's still quite a separation in a lot of way.
there is a very big separation, and there shouldn't be. It has hurt our work a lot. For example, most all missionaries going out from the church in this country went overseas on a salary from the General Conference. And then suddenly somebody said we got too many departments in the General Conference. They want to cut the departments down. Suddenly they said the doctors overseas can in the hospital earn their own living. They should be paid by the local hospital. So when I was over there in Kenya for a few weeks, uh, the medical director of that country, of our church, said, my first job is to get rid of all American doctors. They're too
Hmm.
expensive. And that was his goal. And our goal was to use doctors as missionaries. And they were to go over there and be
Yeah.
paid for from the General Conference.
Yes.
And so this really hurt us quite a bit. And then I was at Loma Linda when hospital uh, changed their system and began to let the doctors collect their own income from their seeing the patients instead of going through the usual church channels. I saw all that happen. I remember Dr. Small was administrator at Loma Linda San. And I remember the doctor who was the surgeon pushing. We're the ones who are bringing the money in. We should decide where it goes. Well, it went into their pockets where it ended up. And
Yeah,
that wasn't
that's
right.
always
It's,
a problem, is it?
yeah, we were supposed to be starting new hospitals, other places, when we had extra money. And anyway, that didn't work out very well.
So what can we do to start remedying this issue? Because like you said, this is something that's been a problem for a long time, and it makes me think that there's probably a diabolical plan that's been put in place to keep those
Yeah,
two things separate: the spiritual ministerial work and
yeah.
the medical work.
Well, we should have a course in nutrition in the medical school. We don't. We need a good course. We don't have it. Uh, we should teach the people how to operate, like Sister White said, without all these medicines, how to live in such a way so you don't have to get sick. And we need to do that. We need to do something more with getting the doctors and ministers together. We should make a change. Our doctors that go overseas get paid by the general conference, not by the local uh, conference, because they can't afford it. We need to do that. Uh, I'm quite excited about establishing a program. Now, I tried to be a medical evangelist myself all through life. In other words, not working for salary, but working for the church. And I've done that. I've done that. Whether it was, uh, uh, I have to say, I wasn't on a church salary much of my life, and it's been worthwhile. Uh,
So it sounds like you find it really rewarding to stay connected to the church, being doing your medical work, really alongside and even in the context of your church service. So if you think about lessons or insights that you would want to give for future generations, especially, when it comes to
Hmm.
medical work and holistic medical approaches, what what sort of lessons or advice would you give?
well, now we've learned that this lifestyle, these eight risk factors, seven risk factors, if we take care of that, we lower the risk of the major cause of death. That we should get that idea across. A lot of the doctors don't know that yet.
Very
But
simple, but it's not well known,
it's
right?
not well known. It's there. It's in the literature, but it's not well known. It's not well practiced.
Hmm.
And we should do something about that. Get that going again.
Very good. And if you think about your day to day, because when I think about your life, I'm just continuing to be amazed at how, even though you're almost 102 years old, you're still thinking even into the future and how we can start new programs and all that. What do you do day to day? What does your day to day look like to keep your mind so sharp, and your your hope, and just this idea that you continue to have so much spark in your life?
Yes, I'm excited every day to see how the Lord is going to lead me to help somebody. And we should, in everything we do, teaching, whatever it is, we should help people, bring them into the church. I remember in my class at Loma Linda, it was called Special Topics in Nutrition, it was really on meat, milk, and eggs. And I didn't know, but one year a girl got in, a Chinese dietitian got in from Hong Kong. And at the very end, during our examination, you had to be examined by three professors to decide whether you graduated and got your degree or not. And so Dr. Blankenship was in charge of this committee that I was on. And he asked this girl, he said, would you like to say something before we start the questioning of the exam? She said, I would. She said, I was in Dr. Scharffenberg's class, special topics on nutrition. And he explained to us something scientifically. And then he said, he held up a book called Counsel on Diet and Foods. And it says, and here this book said that very same thing years and years ago. I'd never heard of the book. She said, I went out and bought the book. And now when I go back to Hong Kong, first thing I'm going to do is be baptized as a Seventh-day Adventist. I was so excited about that. But I think our teaching should be teaching the principles of health, how to live so you don't need the medicine, so you don't get sick, how to do this properly, and how to teach others to keep them well. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think we should do it uh, for overseas, particularly where we need these high priced doctors who are well trained in certain specific areas. We need them there, uh, cardiac transplants and all this. We need that kind of thing, but we can't afford to have doctors over there all the time doing that at the salaries that they get
Yeah.
to do it.
So you're, like you said, you're still excited. I just value the wisdom that you're sharing so much. And so day to day, are there any habits or practices that you credit even even nowadays to
Yes,
helping you.
I think early to bed and early to rise. I think going to bed early, getting a good night's sleep, and getting up early, having a good breakfast, having a good lunch, and we've skipped now for years and years, skipped the evening meal. And I think that's pretty interesting because now our scientists are saying the same thing. It's
Yes,
amazing.
it is amazing, isn't it?
But exercise, I think, is tremendous. And I think it should be useful exercise.
Yes, I love that. So, you probably know I'm a psychiatrist, so I'm curious, how do these holistic principles that you've been talking about, the spiritual, the nutrition, the exercise, all of this, how does it affect people mentally, do you think?
Oh, I think it affects them mentally too. I think it does. For example, a lot of diseases that people get when they're older begin in childhood and we don't realize it. For example, these ACEs, have you heard the term ACE?
Yes, adverse
Adverse
childhood
children's
experiences.
experiences. Yeah, about 10 of those. If a child has six of them, he's likely to shorten his life by 20 years.
Wow.
That's a big change. And so I never had these in my life. See, our family was a good family. We didn't have any of these kind of problems, mother abuse and all that kind of thing. Uh, so I think getting our children immunized properly. Now, the COVID vaccine is not what we look up as a vaccination. The dictionary definition is the organism itself has to go in, not just part of the organism.
Mm.
And they said DNA and RNA would never meet together. And well, over in there in Sweden, the university showed that within 7 hours of getting an RNA, it gets to the liver and connects with something there and makes a DNA.
Uh-oh.
A lot of people don't know that. And so it's not really a vaccination like Sister White talked about vaccination. Uh, so I think there's things we can do with teaching our ministers the way that we ought to be living and to teaching our doctors the way we ought to be living. So we don't need all these drugs constantly all the time.
Absolutely. So, if you could change one thing about how we approach health in today's world, what would it be? I know you've already talked about, some things that as far as, the holistic education of physicians and this sort of thing. But if you had to choose just one thing to change about how we approach health in today's world, what would it be?
Yeah, well, I think nutrition is important. I am a nutritionist, and I've made a university course in nutrition in one sentence. And here's
One
what it,
sentence. Tell me the one sentence.
okay, eat at the proper time.
Eat at the proper time.
A variety, not all in one meal, but from meal to meal, 10 days. Eat at the proper time a variety of natural, non-processed foods in quantities for ideal weight.
Wow. There you have it. There you
You,
have it. That is a beautiful sentence right
one
there.
sentence, you got all the nutrition. It's simple. We're making it too hard. We're making
Hmm.
it too difficult. And it's simple.
So when you think about all these wonderful health principles that we have, how do you see the role of connection, relationship, trust, those sorts of things, the importance of relationships related to health?
Well, I think they are. I think they're all these principles. For example, there's seven principles that cuts down cardiovascular disease 80%. Look what they are. Tobacco. We've been teaching that for years. Alcohol. We've been teaching that for years. And the latest studies have shown that the amount of alcohol it takes uh, is just any little bit of it can increase your risk of dying. Dr. Max Griswold did the biggest study ever, and he showed that there is no lower level where there is no problem with use of alcohol. It increases the risk of some disease if you use any at all. And exercise, but it should be useful exercise. So if we get the spirit of prophecy idea of these different things, we'll see that they work. They work. You don't have to have all these medicines.
That's right. Absolutely. So when you think about uh, the the whole mental health piece, and some people talk about the importance of things like humor or even giving to others or serving. Do you think those things play a role in health?
I think all those things do. I think all of them do have a role. It's uh, not just particularly humor, but I think we ought to be able to enjoy life. But it says they never ever saw Jesus laugh. He
Hmm.
smiled, but there's nobody ever uh, has shown that he laughed, which
Hmm.
is kind of interesting.
That is interesting. You know,
Uh,
but I will say that the reason I asked that question is just because I do see that even in your life, you know, that you've always been a giver, at least as much as I know about you. And you also have a good sense of humor. And so I think that probably you're kind of a case in point.
uh, well, I'm really excited about working to save souls, and I didn't think I was doing enough, so I went with Falkenberg over to Liberia. He gave me a village to do a complete evangelistic effort. I did it. We raised up a new church.
Wow.
Over 200 people
What,
baptized.
what, when was that?
Oh, a long time ago before Falkenberg died. But anyway, I think should be spend more time. We are supposed to have medical evangelists that are paid for by the sanitarium who go and do city evangelism.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The city
Now,
evangelism was supposed to be done by gospel medical missionary workers.
yes.
It was not the usual minister. They said the usual minister is not adequate for the job for city evangelism. And we
Should
were
be.
supposed to have a lifestyle center within about 20, 30 miles of all the big cities. Now we have 10 cities in the United States with 1 million or more population. So we need at least 10 of those.
Yes, we
And
need
here
to
we
be
haven't had it.
reconnecting the spiritual work with the medical work.
That's right. That's right.
Now, is there are there any Bible verses or quotes that you've lived by that still resonate with you today that you'd like to share to our
Well,
listeners?
a merry heart doeth good like a medicine.
Very good.
I
That's
like
what we
that one very much.
yes. And any stories before we wrap it up here today? Any stories that you'd like to share about, either from your own life or other people's lives where you've seen holistic health at work and have made a difference?
Yes, I've seen a great deal of difference in my life. Uh, I met Dr. Lonergan's grandson the other day, and he's not an Adventist. He was caught up with drinking alcohol and stuff, and he was in despair all the time. So I said to him, look, every day I wake up, I'm so anxious to see who God is going to bring to my attention that I can help that day. He does
Hmm.
every day. And I want to know how he's going to do it. And I said, when you get so busy doing that, you don't think about your own problems.
That's so true.
You
That's
see,
so true.
you're helping other people all the time. And so I've had many experiences like this of helping other people, and it helps you yourself.
It sounds to me like that could be a key for preventing burnout.
Yeah, I think so.
Because a lot of people deal with burnout nowadays, and you know, they we talk about compassion fatigue, but I think when people are truly seeing that they're making a difference and truly seeing the progress as they're helping other people, and of course they're practicing the health principles themselves, it's like there's no reason to burn out, right?
Yes. Now we've got to know that the things that Sister White has told us diet-wise are correct. The
Yes.
lifestyle, like the doctors themselves have learned that these 7 lifestyle factors will reduce uh, chances of getting a cardiovascular disease better than any other method. A
Yep.
lot of the doctors have heard about it, but haven't really gotten into using it.
That's right. You
And
need
I
to
think
share it
we
with them.
can. I think we can use these practical principles to help people so they don't have to get sick and require all these medicines.
So as we wrap things up here today, any last closing thoughts or words that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, I really think what we've been told by Ellen White, well, I'm sure she's a prophet of the Lord. I think what we've been told is accurate. It's why this church has been way ahead in many lines, especially medical work, because of the accurate information that she's given us of what we should be doing. But we're losing the way gradually, going more to the pharmaceuticals instead of doing the lifestyle prevention stuff.
So we need to get back to the basics. We need to get
Yes.
back to God's principles, believing in them, following them, teaching them, and really sharing them with other people in practical ways, instead of just focusing on drug treatment. And so I really appreciate that perspective, Dr. Scharffenberg. Thank you so much for taking the time to inspire all of us with your wisdom and your ideas of how we can move forward in a better way. And I think that with God's help, we can make a huge difference in educating ourselves and then living out these principles and then educating others, not only for this life, but to prepare for eternal life too.
Now, my son thinks I'm going to live to be 110. Well, I'm not sure that's going to be so, but anyhow, it is interesting every day to see how the Lord brings people to my attention where I can help them.
Yes. And that's what it's all about, isn't it, in the
That's
end?
what it's all about. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Scharffenberg. May God bless you and keep you. And I'm looking forward to hopefully talking again here sometime in the near future. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe. Your engagement will help us reach more people who need encouragement. To hear more episodes, learn about our other mental health resources, or support us financially, visit thebrainpeoplepodcast.com.